Hey there, friends. Welcome to Down to Watch, the podcast that asks, are you down to watch? I'm your host, Kahmeela.
I am Dan.
We're here to talk about movies, music, TVs, and just general pop culture stuff. If you have not done so already, could you please do us a favor and follow us on Twitter at DTW Podcast. And you can also like our page on Facebook, Down to Watch Podcast. All episodes of this show can be found on iTunes, Libsyn, and Player FM. So there's like 3 different ways for you to get the podcast. I don't know how you generally go about doing that. But yeah. So that's how it works. But it's listed under Rugged Angel Productions, and Rugged Angel is one word. This is episode 58.
Wow.
Yeah.
Of Down to Watch?
Yeah, like we've been doing this for a long time, but like the episodes are so sporadic that...
Right.
So it's only 58 episodes.
That's okay. The other, it's more important that the Rugged Angel cast be the one that is, I think, produced at the most frequent interval.
And that is the one. I think that's the first one in the Rugged Angel Productions podcast lineup that is going to hit 100 episodes.
So excited to fill in as Kahmeela Adams. I will channel my inner Kahmeela Adams, which you may or may not know is vast in my inner psyche. There's a voice constantly in my mind. There's several of them.
I've been working on it, like just kind of getting that in there. It's called Inception.
You're doing a great job. You are the largest voice in my mind. But the thing is, I'm super nervous and intimidated because you're such a good interviewer and you've got such a great format, and it's not always the same. There's similar elements, but you switch it up.
Sometimes.
And so
gotta get the feel for the guest.
I am more nervous about interviewing you than I am arguing in front of the Supreme Court of the United States.
Well, yeah, I guess so, because you've been doing that for like ever. So I mean,
well, I've never argued in front of the United States.
No, but that's in your wheelhouse. That's kind of your.
That's like arguing with 8 people at the same time,
which I couldn't imagine. That's scary as crap. I don't even like it's just that's why I don't do arguments on Facebook, because that's what you're essentially that's what you're doing.
Like, I'll get back to you, Your Honor. But anybody who is both a lawyer and happily married realizes that their wife is more important than their job, as I do.
And what's funny is, speaking of sort of kind of this, is like also sort of kind of segue, but I've been rewatching Girlfriends from the beginning all the way, and I think I'm on season.
My girlfriends.
I think I'm on season 3 or 4. And as of right now, Joan is having a crisis. She's a lawyer, and she's decided that she wants to give up law. And I think that'd be an interesting, not because I want you to give up law, but I think it'd just be an interesting episode for you to.
Oh, I fantasize about it all the time. You know that. I am 2 bad days away from opening up my own restaurant.
Yep. But that is neither here nor there. We are here to talk about Avengers Infinity War. There are going to be spoilers. This movie has been out now for what, 2 weeks?
Long enough for you to know that there are going to be spoilers.
Yeah, exactly. We're not fresh out the gate here. So,
no.
I mean,
and I've read a lot of articles since we saw it the first time.
Right.
We had to see it a second time.
Yes, and we'll get into that.
Okay.
We'll get into that.
Right. I'll put a pin on that.
Yeah, so spoilers. So obviously, I would assume if you care about that sort of thing, you probably wouldn't have clicked on and started playing, and you wouldn't have pressed play. So here we go.
But if you are that rare person
who doesn't care about spoilers,
go see it.
Yeah.
Come back to us. Yeah,
press pause, and then we'll be here. We'll be right here waiting. Iron Man, Thor, the Hulk, and the rest of the Avengers are... Let's rewrite that. T'Challa and the rest of his little friends.
There we go.
Unite to battle their most powerful enemy yet, the evil Thanos, on a mission to collect all 6 Infinity Stones. Thanos plans to use the artifacts to inflict his twisted will on reality. The fate of the planet and existence itself has never been more uncertain, as everything the Avengers have fought for has led up to this moment. That's a weird sentence.
Everything they fought for has led up to this moment.
Thank you. All right, so directed by Anthony Russo and Joe Russo, written by Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely. Our history with this movie. So we saw this is our second viewing. We've been watching, and you guys have been keeping up. If you've been keeping up with our podcast, and we've seen all of the other movies leading up to this. We've been super excited about it, not as excited as when we were about Black Panther, but still.
We did the marathon.
Yes, we did it. We did the thing, and it helped explain so much to me. So this is our second viewing, but Dan.
So, my lovely...
Why is this our second viewing?
My lovely wife, Kahmeela, knowing that I was also, I'm into the Marvels. Marvel's my favorite. When I was a little kid, Spider-Man was my favorite superhero. And she's like, well, let's see it as soon as we can, which makes sense. Check. Okay.
Right.
Let's see it at 10 o'clock in the morning. Okay. I'll try that. Check. And then we discovered that if you wake Danny up on the weekend and then put him in a dark room and tell him a story for 2.5 hours.
2.5 hours.
I might miss 45 minutes of it going back to sleep, which is what happened the first time we saw it. I didn't see so much. I just woke up and shit was going down.
Stuff was blowed up. People were missing.
Right? I was like, what the hell?
Characters.
Everybody's crying around me. I'm like, what? What happened?
Should I be feeling something right now?
Did we go see Marley and Me and I forgot?
So yes, I mean we probably would have maybe eventually gone back to. No, probably not. It's not like it's a bad movie. It's just I don't think I needed to see it a second time around. Not as much as I felt like seeing Black Panther second time in the theater.
Yeah, and the third time recently because it's now streaming and digitally for those of us that signed up for that. But nonetheless, I needed to see it. Period, because I missed a good third and fourth act. And so it's our anniversary weekend. We're celebrating our 8th lovely year of being married. And this weekend has just been the best weekend. We've been celebrating this anniversary like Hanukkah for 8 days with mood lighting every time. And it's just been awesome. So this is just kind of a continuation of our grand celebration of our 8 years together as husband and wife.
And I'm super stoked about it. So also, yes, we've watched Black Panther a third time. But I've also been watching it at work at my lunch break, so bits and pieces.
All the time. I'm watching Black Panther all the time.
It's just been on all week.
I know, and I have caught myself more than a handful of times, maybe 2 handfuls of times, of maybe inappropriately saying Wakanda forever. In situations where it doesn't
in court, after you've argued,
kind of going through the metal detector at work, Wakanda forever. To my 2 black colleagues at work, I just give them a Wakanda forever in the hallway, and one of them looks at me like, I'm too smart for comic book movies. Get that stuff away from me. The other one's like, yes, Wakanda forever.
The other one returns the salute.
Right.
Yes.
So I've been tossing out my Wakanda forever to figure out really who my allies are.
Yeah. You learn quick.
In the world. But this was Avengers Infinity War, the Gauntlet.
Which I kept calling Xfinity War. Thanks, Comcast.
Yeah.
So, it's our usual cast of characters. Everybody is here.
It's everybody.
So I think the only new person, aside from his lackeys, would be Thanos. Played by Josh Brolin.
He is not new, remember.
Oh, that's right.
In Avengers, the original Avengers. Right. Okay, so Loki had the Tesseract, which we now know contains the Space Infinity Stone. And he wanted to use the Tesseract to take over Earth. And he made a deal with Thanos that if you let me use your army to take over Earth, then I will give you the Tesseract. Okay. That's how.
So there was an actual scene with them in the original Avengers.
So it's kinda. So we met Thanos briefly. It's we saw him go into the bathroom, but that was the only time we were at the club. So they briefly did a shot of his face, and then also at the very, very end credits, after you sit through all the credits, they show you his new glove.
And everybody was freaking out, and I had no idea, because I don't read the comics, so I was like, huh?
Right. So that's really a good. So let's talk about. Can we segue into the movie now? So the setup of the movie is here's a scene of Thanos and his, what did you call them? His
lackeys?
His lackeys. Thank you. That'll be their official name for the rest of this podcast.
The children of Thanos.
The children of Thanos, who are badasses.
Yeah, the really fucked up guy with his face.
With no nose?
Yeah. The way he just... Right. Float stuff, and even when they were on the ship, he just kind of had random pieces of metal to just throw around.
Yeah,
that was kind of
he was super powerful.
That was kind of weird.
Yeah, I mean,
I just keep spare parts around just for this occasion, just so I can float them.
Right, and make them strap around. Right. I mean, he was super powerful, and the weirdest thing, and probably the most powerful thing about him was how fugly he was. Muppets from Dark Crystal had sex with Muppets from Fraggle Rock and made this guy and gave him a ton of magical powers.
And somebody smashed that face,
all the way
baby's
in.
face, right into the wall. And I kept looking, there were a couple times because it looked like he had horns missing. He looked like, I was like, is he missing horns? Is that important to the plot?
Right.
But it's not. It was just folded skin.
Ugh.
But yeah.
Nobody needs folded skin on their
He was
head.
crazy.
So it's basically the setup is meet Thanos and his lackeys. And he's like demonstrated that Thor is just like a rag doll in his hands, right?
Yeah, which I do also, I want to interject, I do appreciate that there wasn't a bunch of like setup time. Like we kind of got right into.
Right.
And then, like,
right. Because there was
arguably
10 years of movies
exactly.
beforehand.
Arguably, yes, we've had like 13 movies
Right.
of setup.
So let's talk about that for just a brief second. So like there's critics out there, they're like, this movie was no good because it didn't stand alone on its own.
What?
And I'm like, had we done a bunch of previously in the Avengers scenes,
Yeah.
I'd have been annoyed.
Right.
Because it was already 2.5 hours long.
Exactly.
You know, like, no.
No.
This is one of those movies, like, you go see the other movies.
Exactly. This is a reward to like all of the fans and everybody who's been traveling along and trucking along this whole journey, this whole time. It's not meant to be a standalone. Like,
No.
do the fucking work.
Right. Do the work.
And you will
everybody in the Marvel universe, pretty much, almost everybody, we'll get to that
Yeah.
at the end, is in it.
Right.
And so you should definitely, check it all out. But so, Thanos goes into, lays out his dastardly plot in the very beginning, right?
And
I'm going
this
to get
is-
all the Infinity Stones.
Sorry, to keep interrupting, but this is like right after Ragnarok.
Yes.
Ragnarok was, yeah. So Black Panther was the last one before this, but this is taking place like in the time span of Ragnarok,
Right.
Because I remember, I guess that very end credits.
Right.
And Ragnarok is when they're all on that ship, and then they see they got a shadow over them. They're like, "What
Right.
is that?"
The
So I'm
ship-
assuming that's Thanos's.
The ship was full of Asgardian refugees because
Right.
Asgard, the planet, was destroyed by Thor's older sister, one of the
Hela.
best badasses to ever take the screen.
Shout out to Hela.
Yeah, she was great. And her whole thing was to destroy Asgard. Or maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was Thor's whole thing to destroy Asgard because her source of power was Asgard.
Right. That's
So it kind of, that's where, and they show you the refugee ship at the end of Thor Ragnarok, and they show you Thanos' ship moving towards
right.
it. Right.
And they're
So-
like the last thing Loki and Thor say are like, "What is that? Or
Right.
who is that?" Or
Right.
something.
And so they spare us the blood bath that apparently
which
happened on that ship.
Because that would have been another half hour.
Oh my God. And gosh, I can't remember Idris Elba's character's name,
I don't know,
but
but
he's like Thor's best friend and the keeper of the Bifrost.
I feel like this is the first time I'm hearing that he's his best
Me
friend.
too. Me too. Like best friend, really?
Are you just going in for extra sympathy there?
Yeah, right. And what about Jane, your old girlfriend
Yeah,
on
I
Earth,
just
right?
wanna-
Anyway, so before Idris Elba dies, his character, he opens up the Bifrost and sends Hulk to Earth to go warn the people of Earth that Thanos is coming.
Why didn't he
etc.
send Thor?
Right? Why didn't he send Thor? Right? In any event-
Also, I mean, not just Hulk, but like, why? Like, it would have been helpful.
Yeah, well, I mean, at this point in time, Hulk was knocked the fuck out because Thanos beat him silly. Like, I've never seen Hulk get beat like that. I don't think anybody in the theater was ready for that. They're like, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa.
Yeah, knocked him the hell out.
And I
Like, he's
gotta say,
been-
Hulk was kind of a bitch about it.
A little bit, yeah,
bit.
because it does turn into this whole thing now where now he's got an attitude.
Well, I don't know if that's why his attitude, but he got hit the one time. And he was just like, oh, he was all messed up. Like, dude can dish it out, but can't take it. That's where I was focused on.
I think it's also, yeah, I think it was probably a lot of, no, I think there was a lot of feelings there. There was a lot of feelings about it.
Yeah,
Like, it was
could
like
be.
he wasn't expecting that. He was like, oh, so somebody could take me down. So now, well, fuck this. I don't want to, I'm not trying to.
Thor had beat up, well, arguably, Thor had beat up Hulk before.
That's what it was. Like, Thor was not happy. Thor, he could sort of argue that fight.
Yeah.
Or Hulk could argue that fight with Thor that Thor wasn't necessarily the one that came out on top.
Right.
There was no argument in this one. It was like,
No.
clear cut.
Oh yeah, this
You
guy
got
didn't
fucked
use
up.
any thunder magic or
No,
nothing.
you got fucked up.
Yeah, you got knocked the fuck out. And so my question to you is, did you care about Thanos after that first scene? Like,
Meaning,
were you like, oh, I need to figure out what this guy's up to and why,
What is-
or I'm just really scared of him?
not
like,
particularly, no.
Right.
I think there is. I'm still really trying to figure out like what exactly his point is in all of this. Like I guess his thing
balance?
is
Right.
Yeah, I guess his thing is that he goes and so he's basically a gentrifier.
No, a genocidal maniac.
No, he's also a little that
He doesn't
he's
move people in. He just kills half the planet.
but he's moving in to make things better.
But he
he's
doesn't
killing
move
half
in.
the planet.
That's the thing. He doesn't move in. He and his people don't. They just go from planet to planet and kill half the population.
So
Because he thinks the world's full of too many mouths.
well, there's no point. I don't understand. I don't. Yeah, I don't get his point in all of it. None
Right.
of this affects him.
Right. They tell you the story like later on in the movie. He's like, "Well, on my planet,
Right.
we were overpopulated," and I was like, "We should do random killings of
Yeah.
half the population, rich and poor alike." That was my compassionate answer
thanks.
to overpopulation.
Thank you.
Apparently, the entire universe,
Yeah.
in Thanos' mind, is suffering from an overpopulation problem. So he needs to gather all the stones so he can kill half of the universe's population.
So he wants to do it and he doesn't want to do the work actually.
Well,
He
first
wants to
of
do
all-
it easily. He wants because he was doing it. So
Right.
now he just wants all the stones so he can just do it one time
With
and
the
then
snap.
just like
Right,
rest.
exactly. Basically, he's lazy. And the other thing too is, I mean, this is really going to send the real estate market into the dumper. The demand will go down with half the universe gone.
I also have a question. Like it was when he did his little reality dream of his planet and what he did beforehand. Is he an anomaly? Like, is he the only one that's like a giant fucking being?
Yeah,
Or
right, 'cause it
does
didn't
it
look
come
like a
from a
bunch of
whole
them were.
planet full of people his size?
I guess they were supposed to all kind of be his size because his planet was Titan. And so typically speaking,
Okay,
the word
yeah.
Titan means giant.
Right. Okay.
And typically the word dwarf doesn't. We'll get to that. So that was part of my issue with the movie is they didn't really do a very
I think
convincing job that I should care about Thanos.
in the opening scene.
Yeah, kind of also
I think-
throughout the movie.
Really? Because I think more throughout the movie, he was made to me. He came off a little more interesting, a little more of an interesting villain because they did try to give us room to empathize with
Yeah,
him,
they did.
and I thought he kind of sort of like I can see. Even though I don't agree with what he was doing, I can see where he thought in his mind he was doing the right thing. I can see it's not just a villain for villain's sake.
Right.
He's not just evil.
This
just
is
to
like
be
an
evil.
international policy of sorts.
Right. So he's got these ideas. This is the way he thinks the universe should be, and
Right.
this is the way that he's going to go about doing it. And I still don't fully buy the whole he adopted Gamora and he cared for her all like I'm not completely buying that story.
Right.
But and I feel like that was over top, a little bit much.
Yeah, just kind of a drive-by.
Yeah.
Convenient.
Because in the other Guardians movies, she had spoken of what their life was like, and her and Nebula apparently he would make them fight.
Right. I was
And if
going to
they-
say, we love our dogs.
Right.
We don't make them fight each other.
Right. Exactly. So he'd make them fight, and if
He
the
treated them like fighting dogs.
yeah, and then the loser would get a part of her replaced with a machine,
Yes.
and so that's why Nebula's like so much machine.
Right. So I mean, by way of comparison, of course, it's not necessarily fair, but we just watched Black Panther and Killmonger. I was vastly interested in him.
Okay. So yes.
And
Thank
I
you
was
for
like,
bringing this up.
watch out if Killmonger gets access to all this stuff, then whoa, dude, it's going to be crazy. And the whole time I was like anxious about Killmonger, right? Killmonger had me emotionally invested in
Oh,
him.
absolutely.
Thanos, I was like, how's this? Okay, I guess I'm not going to take a nap. I'm not going to take a nap. I'm not going to take a nap.
You're right. Like I was not 100% emotionally invested in Thanos because I have some questions also about different ways and different points that I feel like the Avengers could have defeated and stopped all this from
Oh,
happening.
me too. Oh, yeah.
So, but when you bring, let's just slide on over to Killmonger for a quick hot second.
Hot being the operative word.
Hey, so
Michael B. Jordan, you got me doing sit-ups over here.
Lost my train of thought.
Let's talk about Killmonger, you said.
Somebody on Facebook said that they did not buy the tragic story of Killmonger. They didn't buy his tragedy story of his backstory.
That's a person with blinders on.
Exactly. So I would just like to point out, I'd like to take this opportunity, just a couple seconds, to just be like, yo, this is the most believable.
Killmonger.
Yes,
Yeah.
Killmonger is the most believable and the most present, I guess, or something like realistic.
Contemporaneous or
Yeah.
contemporary
realistic.
Look at us trying to use words.
Right. Realistic backstory as to like why this person becomes a quote unquote villain. He was already living in an impoverished society. His mother, which I'm just now reading like a bunch of different think pieces and stuff, and I think this is the case. We found out his mother was in prison. Don't know why. And we think that at the beginning of the movie, what his father and
James.
the other one, what is his name? Young Forrest Whitaker. Were plotting and planning was to break her out of prison. That's what was going on in the opening scene in that movie. So his mother's in prison. Then his father gets killed. He finds his father with panther claws, quote, in his chest.
Right.
And then they up and leave him. So now he's orphaned. He's alone. He's like got to go through the foster system. He's got to go through orphanage, whatever. We still don't know like exactly who raised him, but probably just going in and out of the system throughout the whole entire time. And he's in a neighborhood. He's in a city. He's in a world that does not accept him as a black man who is grown up in poverty and without parents. And then he finds out, and it probably happened, beforehand, because it seems like, his father made sure to tell him about Wakanda. So he knows about Wakanda. He knows about this other world that he supposedly belongs to. He knows that he's an heir to this throne that he does not have. And he finds out, what these people are doing, and he doesn't agree with how they're using not using their technology.
And he did kind of give them a chance to accept him, when he was captured or whatever.
When he brought Claw's body.
Yeah. He brought Claw to them. They arrest him, right? It wasn't like, thank you for bringing our enemy to us.
No, because he was still kind of like, he wanted the throne.
Oh, yeah.
At that point.
But he had a legitimate claim to it.
Right.
He had every right to want that clone.
Right.
Or throne. He had, just like every black person has a right to wait for a business partner to show up at Starbucks.
Exactly.
He had every right to make his claim for the throne. And so anyway.
Yeah.
So I just, by way of contrast, Thanos was more of a theoretical villain. I mean, they mention him in all the other movies and things like that, but if they could have maybe shown some of his dastardly deeds without him being so kind of nurturing to like the only really horrible scene they showed was him like, oh, hello little one, take my big hand and I'll walk you over here and give you a present while my people kill half
and even like shot like kind of like shielding her away from the actual genocide that's going on next to her. It was also interesting to me that just like visually in that opening scene on the ship, we see Loki and we see like all the dead Asgardians, and then we see Thanos off in the way. It took me it takes a minute to realize how big he actually is, because it just kind of looks like he's just like maybe Thor size,
right?
And then just kind of like what the depth of field is doing, and then he picks up Thor and you're like, oh, this dude is fucking huge,
right?
So just kind of like shout out to camera dynamics.
Oh yeah, they did a great job with that. So Bifrost, Hulk goes home and he meets Doctor Strange and those guys. And this is when we first learn that there's the first Earth fight, right, where they land on Earth and they're after the timepiece, right? And Wizards won, Thanos 0 in that fight, but without the help of Hulk.
Right.
This is when we discover Hulk is not coming out to play.
Right.
My theory isn't because he got his ass beat by Thanos.
Okay.
My theory is that because Hulk's done with Earth. If Earth was nicer to him and wasn't so mean to him, because remember, Hulk hasn't been on Earth for a long time.
Right.
He's been
a couple years, like 3 years, I think it was.
Long time. Maybe 3 years.
I think it was 3 years.
Because he was up doing the Jeff Goldblum show. And so
So you think he's done with Earth?
Number one reason whose fault it is, besides Thanos, clearly. But my number one suspect shows up early in the movie is Earth's fault that this happened. Because otherwise, Hulk would have come out to defend Earth. But Hulk is kind of like, you know what, Earth? We're broken up. We're on a break indefinitely.
But it wasn't just Earth that was in peril, though. It was the whole universe.
Yeah, somebody explain that to Hulk. They're just like, we're going to put you on Earth and you got to go fight on Earth.
So my theory is that he's in his feelings is that he might be in his feelings about the first fight with Thanos or Thanos' people that he lost, but also that nobody brings Hulk out just to have a talk and just to
Right,
have
and we
have a
know that
beer.
he can hang out, right? And he's funny.
Right.
And he's
Like,
got a sense of humor.
They just want him to come fight. So he's
Right.
gotten a taste of the good life again
Right.
on, Jeff Goldblum's planet or whatever.
Right, I can't remember the name of that planet either.
People
It's called Goldblum.
Exactly. Goldblum Galaxy. And he, he's had a good life over there, and people were admiring Hulk and liking Hulk
Right.
for who he was.
He had a
so
sweet
now
roommate,
he's just like,
gorgeous trainer.
Right.
Tessa Thompson was my
Exactly.
trainer. I wouldn't want to leave either.
true story. Yeah, he also might be kind of a little bit mad that he had to leave there. That they
Right.
took him out of there. So
Right.
I think it's more of he's in his feelings.
Yeah, for a lot of reasons.
Let's just agree he's in his feelings.
Yeah. And so, so that was the first fight on Earth, and it looks like, the Wizards won it, even though that dude was incredibly... I don't know, how did they get away from that guy?
Okay, so they got away... Well, they didn't technically really get away from him. One, Strange's boy, Wong, I think, opened up a portal and got
That's
rid
how
of
they got rid of that one dude.
Yeah, the one dude. But the leader of them, he wrapped up Strange.
Oh, that's right.
And took him
up
to the ship,
Okay, so maybe the Wizards didn't win that one. I revised my initial scoring.
And also, it's also a shout out to Loki's death has happened in that first scene, and that was a little disappointing to me.
And very well done.
It was, and I'm talking about cinematic, visions. Just the cinematography, the visual of Thor's over Loki's dead body. That was really... I actually would like a print of that. This is really sweet, and it was just really well framed and well done.
Yeah, the dynamic between Loki and Thor was pretty interesting
That's
in that
weird.
first scene, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like we're so used to seeing them as enemies, but they're still brothers.
Right.
So they kind of still love each other.
I'm so confused about their relationship.
Love actually is a major character in this movie, I think, throughout. And strained love at that. It's like how it kind of overcomes in these subtle ways, and that was one of them. Because, Loki was like, kill away, and then he's like, no, don't kill my brother, and you can tell he's
I know. It was a little...
And then Thor was all messed up, even though he's all strapped up in metal when Loki died. But they blow up the Asgardian ship. Somehow Thor...
survives. He's a god. He's 1,500 years old.
Right. And he
Apparently.
literally smacks himself on the windshield of Guardians of the Galaxy as they're headed to the distress signal.
And I would just like to point out, I did call it that the rest, the Guardians, the first meeting would be of Thor. A while ago, I did state that it makes most sense that that the Guardians would run into Thor first.
Right. And I love Rocket's response, which is, turn on the windshield wipers. Get it off. Get it off the windshield. And it's interesting to me, too, Guardians of the Galaxy, this little entourage of Star-Lord and Gamora and Drax and Mantis
Is that her name?
and Groot.
Okay.
Right?
And Rocket.
And Rocket. They come across like a college rock band. It's like there's no reason they would all
Be together.
right, but for the fact that they each play an instrument. Somebody's got drums. You know what I mean?
Someone has a practice space.
Someone's got a car. Someone's got the van. All right. So they do kind of have this kind of rock band feel to them.
Ragtag group of.
And there's just a ton of leather, and Drax is always topless. It seems like they've got a lot of tattoos.
Shit ton of tattoos. Yeah.
So I really did enjoy the whole Thor Star-Lord kind of chemistry.
That was amazing. That was
Well, first
there
of
was
all,
just enough amount of comedy here not to be schlocky.
right. This movie, Avengers: Infinity War, is also called Drax's Comedy Hour because Drax had the funniest lines. And they pick up Thor, they bring him into the ship, he's still passed out, and Drax, who can't lie, he has no sense of sarcasm, or he's just very literal,
right?
And he's sitting there
he's talking about how this is not a man. He's more like, you're a man. Star-Lord.
You're a dude,
yeah,
right?
You're a dude. This isn't a dude. This guy looks like a pirate and an angel had a baby.
Yes, he is a man. And Gamora's like, his muscles are they're made out of something fibers.
Yeah.
Star-Lord's getting real jealous, and Rocket's like, you're one sandwich away from being fat. And Chris Pratt honestly is not as fit as he was in Guardians of the Galaxy.
This is true.
In this particular episode, he
This
does
is
have that little chin fat.
And they
thing
pointed
going
it
on.
out.
Yes,
too.
they did. They're like right
it's
here,
wow,
right there.
Wow, and then like also like his little spare tire. I was like, wow, guys,
Right.
Wow. Also, a nice shout out to the fact that this movie had 3 out of the 4 competing for hotness Chris's in Hollywood in it. So we had Hemsworth, Pratt, and not Pine, because that's the one that I always root for. Evans. I always forget.
Oh.
So it's like,
Captain America is so
yes.
easy to forget.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, is there mayonnaise on this bread? I guess it doesn't matter. It's still a sandwich.
Also, I would like to point out that I have been waiting a long time for Strange and Stark to meet.
Right?
So this was great. I am a little bit upset that nobody said no shit Sherlock to the other.
Oh.
Like one or the other.
That would have been perfect
Right?
because they were both Sherlock. Oh my God, I just got
Exactly.
that. My head's going to explode.
So, but missed opportunity, whatevs.
Right? But Cumberbatch did get to call Downey a douchebag.
Yes, I appreciate it. And he also smacked his leg away.
Right? I can't believe you're leaning on the cauldron of the cosmos. And Tony Stark's like, I'm going to allow that.
And also, again, Stark also had or RDJ had some great moments in this as well. Comedic wise, like there's that. And then later on when they're on Titan and he's trying to form a plan, and then like Drax and the Mantis or whatever are looking at him just his facial expressions, like trying to deal with these people
Right.
that aren't following his rule.
Right, that usually don't have a plan. Right?
And he just looks so
He's like, aren't you
strange.
even listening? And Drax is like, I stopped listening once you said, I have a plan.
And I know we're gonna get some maybe a little negative feedback because I know the girl's name is not Mantis. I'm pretty sure it's
No,
not
it's Mantis.
Is it? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Okay, cool. So we've got that going on, and we've there's just so we got Thor meeting Iron Strange meeting Invisible Drax.
Right? Because so Gamora is finally like, sharing, because she was raised by Thanos, so she knows what's going on and she knows what's at stake, and she has this like very serious and important conversation with Peter Quill, aka Star-Lord, who apparently is not evolved beyond the 15-year-old. Right, exactly. and like they're having this super serious conversation. They're all teary-eyed. They're making out at the end of it. And then Drax like crunches a potato chip. They're like, how long have you been standing there?
He's like an hour and a half.
Right. I've learned to become invisible with my slow movements and standing very still.
So there's been all these random memes going around. So there's like a photo of Star-Lord and Gamora, and somebody posts, here's a picture of Star-Lord, Gamora, and Drax, and like he's clearly
he's not in there.
Yeah.
It's funny because he's invisible in his mind. That's funny.
So the internet's been having a lot of fun with this. So now might be.
So now I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. So now might be the time for, some questions about how I feel like things could have been prevented. Why didn't Doctor Strange use his time stone to turn back time once he found out what was happening, to go and kind of go back there and
Under the Asgardian ship or something? Like,
yeah.
Right. So he's on my list of people whose fault it is as well. Because he had the time stone. He knew what was going down.
Some time.
Could have turned back time at any time.
Okay. Also, why didn't Strange pop Thanos into another dimension?
Also a good question.
Because he did it to
Everybody
one of
else.
his boys. Yeah, a couple times. Got guy's arm got chopped off. Also,
I think because Thanos had the space stone
okay,
and he could have bounced right back.
okay, I will buy that. I will accept that. We will not put that on Strange.
No, but going back in time.
All right. Also, why didn't anybody try to cut Thanos' arm off instead of taking the glove off?
Also a good question. That is also a good question.
So that will be chalked up to Stark and maybe Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah.
They were sure, okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Star-Lord. Everybody was right there at that point in time.
Well, and the whole time Drax definitely had a sword because he kept sliding by and cutting the dude's ankles.
Yeah. Just kind of like knobbing at his ankles there.
Yeah.
So
Maybe shoot for the wrist.
yeah. Also, when they were up in space on the spaceship, and they were concerned about the spaceship was on autopilot and they couldn't blah blah blah. Why didn't Strange just pop them back on Earth through one of the dimensional holes
Great
that he's
question.
so happy about making?
Right? Yep. I don't understand how it all works. So there's this, typical point in movies where the party's kind of split in two. And so following, so clearly the Thor and Hulk is the first split in two, right? Thor goes into space.
About characters?
Hulk.
Wait, Thor and Hulk. Are you talking?
No, I'm talking about plot.
Oh, okay.
And so this movie was interesting because it had several we're going to split in two moments.
Are we talking about? I love the fact that they compartmentalized the characters.
So when I say split in two, it's like these two people started off on a hike together. There was a fork in the road. One person went to the right, one person went to the left.
Okay.
Right? So it starts off with Thor goes into space,
Right.
Hulk goes to Earth. And then there's the one where Thor, kind of rejoins with the Guardians of the Galaxy, and then they split up in two, right? Because Rocket and Groot basically was very...
Teenage Groot.
Yeah, and just in the background the whole time for the most part. He didn't really...
He did shine when it was time for the for Thor's sword or axe to be made.
Yeah, right. He did. He had this one moment in the movie, 2.5 hours. Unlike how he was in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, where he just stole the whole show.
Well, he's a teenager.
Right. He was cute little shrub. But so they split in two because Thor's like, I have to go get a Thanos killing weapon, and Rocket's all about going on that trip. And the other ones are like, we have to go to Nowhere, the planet Nowhere, and pick up the Reality Stone. Which, if you remember, in the first Guardians of the Galaxy are the ones that put the Reality Stone.
And that's where Benicio is, right?
Yeah, that's Benicio. And so they get there, and apparently there's like a virtual reality type thing because Thanos has already gotten the Reality Stone. And Gamora kills Thanos in that alternate reality, and she cries. And we discover that Gamora loves Thanos.
That's when I went to the bathroom.
Because it was so forced. It's like, why is she crying, really? And anyway. And then...
It doesn't make any sense. You're right, because she talks so much. She's been to this entire point talking about how much she hates him for what he did. He stole her from her people. He made her and her adopted sister fight. It was like he was not a good... There was no point where she was like, yes, he saved me from X, Y, and Z.
Right.
But no, he...
Right.
Like, he
It's
saved
crazy.
you from an existence that he created.
And
That's what he did.
And this is the first opportunity for Peter Quill to shoot Gamora because she asked him to promise her that she would not help, get the next stone.
Right.
Whatever. So Quill does not shoot her. So it's Quill's
He's on
fault.
your list.
He's on the list a few times.
Yeah. Because that's the first
Right.
point.
Instead, he comes and he tries to insult Thanos and give Thanos plenty of time to use the Reality Stone to turn his phaser into something useless. Bubbles.
Yeah, this is true. Okay, so as I said before, movies like this can get, with so many big names and so many big characters, can get really jacked up if it's not done properly. This basically kind of happened with Avengers, because the first Avengers movie, I think, because it was so many different characters and everybody was sharing screen time at the same time.
Right.
And I also always kind of go back to Heat, the movie Heat, too, because there was like 1,000,001 people who were like A-list actors.
Right. None of whom got along well.
Right. And so it's bless you.
Pardon me.
I really appreciated this structure that they did with this movie, is that they broke everybody up. It's like basically 3 or 4 different sections, different planets, different people. And so it was easier to follow along. Nobody's competing for screen time.
Right.
And it was just like it was very easy to digest.
Right, because the Rocket, Groot, Thor adventure to the planet where the dwarf lives,
Right. Peter Dinklage.
who is giant sized,
Huge.
is hilarious. And they try to make him like a giant. And what's funny too is like he was kind of talking like Thor.
Kind of, yes.
They had the same kind of Shakespearean
Yes.
accent, if you will. Anyway, Peter Dinklage was awesome. It was so great to see him. And it wasn't really like, I don't know what it is. It's just that dude's presence has always been amazing. He's always had the ability to capture the scene.
Yeah.
and chew it up. You know, he is the scene.
Yes.
And everything he does is just amazing. But it was great to see him as this giant, and like his hands were all metal because Thanos had taken his hands, so he couldn't make any more weapons, but he did anyway.
Which, damn, Thanos, really?
Right. So for whatever reasons.
So I've been worried, and I don't know if you guys have listened to previous episodes about the Marvel movies from us. I've been worried about Thor getting his hammer back. For quite some time.
Well, so what's interesting too about this particular axe/hammer, it's not Mylor or whatever. It's Storm something. Stormbringer. That's what it's called. Stormbringer. Yeah, I think it's called Stormbringer. For those people who are balls deep in their gym sock because they know all about every comic book alternative. There's like an ultimate Thor, there's ultimate Marvel universe. And Thor in the ultimate universe, this is his weapon in that alternate universe. Yes.
Oh.
Yes. And so you're talking about alternate universes and alternate dimensions before and all these time stones and infinity stones. I'm thinking that the resolution to this particular movie is going to have to involve part of the ultimate alternate franchise. So we're going to start getting into alternate universe Spider-Mans, alternate universe Thors. It's possible. I didn't want to tell it to you because I know how you feel about time travel and other alternate universes because we watched Fringe for as long as we could. And then we just fell off. Alternate.
And I'm out.
But, you know, the next part is Thanos. He's captured Gamora. She knows where the Soul Stone's hidden. That was a big mystery kept from the universe. And they go to the place where the Soul Stone's hidden, and they run into the very first villain of this entire Marvel Universe franchise that's kicked off is when Captain America fought Red Skull, right? So Red Skull's just hanging out there like Luke Skywalker in an isolated planet somewhere, protecting secrets and stuff. And he's like, oh, by the way, you have to sacrifice somebody in order to get the Soul Stone.
Somebody you love.
Which was never brought up until they got there.
Right.
And Thanos, who loves nothing in the world, just so happened to be there with his favorite stolen daughter. And somehow this is love. And then, so Thor loves Gamora. And he throws her off the cliff to kill her.
So I was also wondering, like, so what happens to the people that roll up there looking for the Soul Stone by themselves?
Right. They get stuck there like Red Skull. That's what he was explaining. Red Skull was like, I came up here to get the Soul Stone, but I didn't bring a sacrifice. And so I'm just up here to show other people how to get something that I can't have because I don't love nothing neither. And Gamora's all like, ha ha, you don't love nothing. And you can't get what you want, ha ha. And then he starts crying, and she's like, oh, you're crying over this?
She's making fun of his tears.
Right. And they're like, no, you're what he loves. And I'm going to have to unpack this shit in therapy for like the next 6 months because the lesson here is that your abusers who murder your family, raise you like a fighting pit bull,
right,
that you have to escape from, but they still love you. And this is somehow genuine love that the universe... The essence of the universe accepts.
Right. They're like, yeah,
Bullshit.
sure. No, it's obsession. Sure, I'll take that.
It is the wrong message to be sending people.
Like, I will accept that he is obsessed with
Unitarians wouldn't even accept this.
Like, yeah, this is...
It's just too bad.
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Nope. So... Yeah. So, and also, Gamora, then, once she realizes that the tears are for her, she tries to, like, kill herself.
Which, shout out. Like,
brilliant.
Yeah.
Not her fault.
Because that's what I was thinking. Like when that was a whole thing going down, I was like, well, just kill yourself.
But unbeknownst to her and the rest of the audience, Thanos had secretly turned all weapons against him into bubbles. So that also kind of, I mean, in addition to the love factor with Thanos and Gamora, which seemed so incredibly forced, like nothing about that seemed right.
It was too hard. It was too forced. They were trying too hard to try to humanize him.
Then the fact that he just so happens to bring her to this place. Like, he could have found out where it was and just gone by himself. Yeah. But no, he brings her along. And he doesn't know that he has to do the sacrifice.
Right.
Also, super convenient, super forced. And honestly, I slept through all of that the first time. Stayed awake for it. The second time was like, oh, I could have slept through all that.
Questions answered, I guess.
No, not really.
No, I
It just
have
raises more.
questions.
So, yeah. So that's all there is to it. Then there's the big Titan battle, and they're so close to getting the gauntlet glove off of his hand. You know, Spider-Man and Iron Man.
Well, they did. Like, he had a pretty solid plan. Apparently, basically attack him from all sides.
Right.
And they even had,
Try to get the glove off.
Yeah, exactly. Like, sure, we'll take that. But I feel like it would have been better just cutting his hand off. Whatever.
Way better. They had the power.
Right.
And then again, Mantis gets on top of him. They have him under a sleep spell of some sort, and they're like, "Quill, cool your jets." Again, the second reason or third reason.
The third time Quill fucks it up.
Right, exactly.
He finds out that Gamora's dead, and so he loses his mind, which
knocks Mantis off of Thanos' head by hitting Thanos. Right, and so now Thanos is free, and again, messed up.
Which still, it just doesn't. That also seems a little bit convenient for the plot to me. Also,
yeah, right.
Like, it just doesn't seem like that would have gone down that way.
Especially when you consider, like, the first time Peter confronts Thanos, and he's like, "Oh, the boyfriend." He's not. He doesn't say yes.
Right.
And I love her. He's like, I prefer to think of myself as a long-term booty call.
Right. So yeah. Okay. Okay. So it's real convenient. Like, you all in love with her and stuff when it's time. Okay. Whatever.
Right. You know, you didn't lose yourself to passion and try to shoot the guy.
Right.
When he had your girl in his hands and you had the opportunity.
Right.
But now that it's all done and behind you, somehow now you're going to lose. Anyway. So now let's talk about Wakanda.
Wakanda forever.
Forever. One, it was funny when they opened up the introduction, and they're like, when you said that you wanted to open Wakanda up to the world, this is not what I thought you had in mind. And Okoye, Danny's character, Denai's character, he's like, well, what did you, T'Challa's like, what did you think I meant? She's like, Olympics or maybe a Starbucks. So let's put a pin in the Starbucks for a second.
I'm sure this was already written and it was already out before that happened.
Right, it was out before all that happened, but it's like, now I wonder.
Right,
It would have been like a Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah.
Dunkin' Donuts never throws black people out.
No. And I'm also kind of thinking, I feel like Wakanda would have better coffee, would have much better coffee than any
in
Starbucks.
Africa. Right, exactly.
Like,
right.
you guys are kind of right there.
Right. Shuri would make it. So here's my big issue, and here's the next group on my list as to whose fault this is, in addition to Thanos. S.H.I.E.L.D. Where the hell was S.H.I.E.L.D. during the fight in Wakanda?
Interesting. I didn't even think about that.
Nowhere. Driving their SUVs in New York City.
Right.
Where? How could
Nobody. Yes.
No S.H.I.E.L.D., no Paulson, no massive, huge battleship that flies in the air and floats on the ocean. No, where were they? So I blame S.H.I.E.L.D. as well. They really left it all up to the superheroes to figure it all out.
That's really.
And then my other issue is, why does all the major warfare have to go down in black neighborhoods or black countries?
Thank you.
Y'all
could have kept this shit. They could have taken this over
to New York City.
Right. No.
Now, they went to Wakanda because they had the technology to help
They had the technology and they had the numbers of people. So, but once again, using black bodies to do
fight
your
white
bidding.
people wars.
Yeah, exactly. They were fucking fine on Wakanda, doing nothing but minding their own GD business.
Right.
And then they're going to bring this fight over there. Yeah.
That's right. It's just messed up. And they just totally, and like M'Baku was like, this is going to destroy Wakanda. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just tough.
Yeah.
So also S.H.I.E.L.D.'s fault. I blame S.H.I.E.L.D. for both the destruction of Wakanda and half of the universe's population.
Right. So another one of my questions about that, I feel like it could have been stopped. I don't, and again, this is me not knowing the canon and all the backstory, but I understand what Vision Stone was doing. I understand what the Time Stone was doing. The Tesseract, was that even doing anything?
Space.
Was it doing anything? Like, physically doing anything? Like, if it had been destroyed before Thanos got it, would there be a problem with anything?
No. You mean like, do these? I don't see. That's another thing.
I don't know if these stones like actively
maintain
control something.
space as we know it. Yeah,
like,
right. Like I don't know either. I mean, apparently you can control space with them. You
Right.
can control time with them, but they don't say whether the stones themselves control
are
space.
actively doing anything
Yeah, right. I don't
like
know.
when anybody is not using
Right.
them.
That's a good question. And like, why is there a mind stone and why is there a soul stone? Why are minds and souls, which are uniquely human concepts, part of the universe's makeup? Like space and time, I get it.
Right, sure. But yeah, mind and soul,
And there was another one too, which I totally power.
which seems kind of
Power, I call it energy, right? I would have gone with
Energy.
time, energy, space,
Right.
right? Basically, anything in an Albert Einstein notebook would have been fine to go with. But soul and mind,
Yeah,
You
so
know,
I'm-
again,
I'm-
it's superheroes. You know, this stuff was written on drugs in the '60s.
Yeah, so I'm just like, if they weren't actively doing anything, like maintaining anything, why was it that?
Why didn't they destroy the Tesseract as soon as
Right.
they knew Thanos was after the Tesseract
Movies ago.
in the first Avengers, right?
Movies ago.
And they like it was under safekeeping in Odin's house, I get that. But then when Asgard was destroyed, there was no reason for anybody to believe that
Well-
the Infinity Stone would be destroyed too, because it's part of the universe. It's
It's
more
just Loki.
powerful than a planet. Well, Loki stole it.
Right.
Yeah.
So
They didn't
he's
show you
being
that.
shady. He was
Oh
really
yeah.
being real
Well,
shady
he's the
about
god
the
of
whole thing.
deception. Shade is what he
was
does.
the god of mischief.
Well, yeah.
Is what it
Sorry.
is,
That's
but
right. That's right.
So arguably
Loki's fault
also
as well.
Loki's also on that
Loki's
list.
paid the price, right? Loki's the only
Right.
one that so far has paid the price.
Okay, so we've got to. Yeah, we're getting a little
Real
bit
close.
over on time. Yeah, so
Let me the last big thing I've got to blame.
Yes.
Okay. Thor's grand entrance, right? After everybody's getting their ass beat, blah, blah, blah. Thor comes in with his new axe, right? Smashes the ground a couple times and wipes out tons of people, which was great. Which reminds me, I think I almost was going to blame. I think it was back and forth. Anyway, we'll just go ahead and say so. Thor and Star-Lord are similar because they're very egotistical and they let their egos get in the way of better judgment. It's been a character flaw of Thor since we first met Thor, because he was going to war with the ice people and his dad was like, "I need to teach you a lesson and take your hammer away," and blah blah blah. Right?
Okay.
So Thor's got to let
I got a little soft spot for Thor,
Thanos
so I don't
know
if I gotta...
that he's getting his revenge for the death of his newly minted best friend.
Right.
Instead of going for the headshot. And Thanos
Right.
tells him you should have gone for the headshot.
Right.
The only
That's
reason
true.
Thor went for the chest shot was so he could come down and be like, "I got my revenge."
He also could have cut his arm off
Right, or cut his arm off.
because you're wielding an axe, like literally.
Right, exactly. So, also Thor's fault. And so let's do a body count of who's left in the end
Of who after the rapture?
that we know
Everybody-
of. Right? They,
after-
they showed Thor.
After everybody gets caught up in the rapture?
Oh yeah, right. Okay, so hold on. There goes half the population. Who's left?
First of all, I just feel like there needs to be, what is his name? What is the little boy's name that plays
Tom Holland.
Spider-Man?
Don't
Tom
wanna
Holland.
go, Mr. Stark.
Dude, bro,
I know.
my man.
I was teary. I'll
Like,
admit it.
okay, so before we get to the rapture, when Thanos gets the time stone,
Yeah, from Doctor
Doctor
Strange.
Strange, there is a real fake out moment where Stark gets stabbed through the chest. I cried real tears.
Yeah, I remember that the first
The
time.
first time.
That's why I woke up. I think the first time. like,
what? What
Kahmeela was
happened?
upset.
I was so upset about that because, quite frankly, Iron Man and RDJ's Iron Man
Right.
has been my introduction into this entire universe.
Right.
As most people's, because
Most people with taste, yeah.
So yes, and I have a special little thing for RDJ, but yeah, though that was fucking heart wrenching.
It was, and all I could think about was the infection he must be getting, because it was like a stab wound through his large intestines. I'm thinking sepsis. I was so
This can't be
concerned.
just fixed with whatever you're gonna just like buzz out of
Oh,
your
no, this
Iron
is a
Man
bad
suit.
wound.
You need to get back on Earth through
You need
immediately.
antibiotics, and you need space antibiotics
Right.
too, because who knows what? you
Yeah,
got
who
on
knows what's
Titan.
floating around in that atmosphere. So Strange fixes everything, whatever. But then Thanos gets all the stones. He snaps his fingers, and then people start
Dusting out. Literally. They should have played that song from Kansas. Dust in the wind.
No, I would have rioted.
Dust in the wind.
I would have been so upset. So, me going into this, not knowing that there is a part 2 to all this, after the credits rolled, I was hot. I was a little bit upset because me going in, all I heard was that Chris Evans said this will be the last time that he wears Captain America suit.
Although
So
I don't remember seeing him in the Captain America suit the whole time.
What is this called? Like Nomad or some shit? Like his this character of his now? Like I think I read somewhere that the darker Captain America suit is called Nomad, or this is a new identity.
Well, and even in the
maybe that's what
comics,
he was doing.
from Jump, Steve Rogers was not the only Captain America. He was the first Captain America, but other people took on the mantle of Captain America in the comic series.
Okay, so going in, I didn't know it was gonna be part 2. Chris Evans says this is the last time he's doing the suit, but I did know that Black Panther was most definitely going to be there's going to be a second Black Panther movie. So I didn't know what to think walking out of this theater after seeing Black Panther dissipate, Thor, Groot.
No, Groot was dead. You're talking about who's left?
No, who's dissipated? Who's been dusted?
We can't count everybody who was dusted. I can count who's left.
Okay.
Falcon was dusted. Oh man, T'Challa was dusted.
Strange. Drax, Star-Lord, Mantis, Groot, Falcon.
We mentioned Spider-Man already.
I was going to get to Spider-Man. Tom Holland. Bless your little heart for really making me feel like I thought that I only brought that whole thing up about me crying with Iron Man to say that I thought that was my emotional moment for the movie.
Right.
But then we moved to Tom Holland's death scene.
Right. And he's like,
and I'm like,
right. I don't want to go, Mr. Stark.
I'm not ready to go. And they purposefully did, like, his little scene was much longer than everybody else.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. Sorry, Mr. Stark. That was pretty good. So we're left with...
I love him so much.
We're left with Thor, War Machine, Captain America,
Bruce Banner,
Black Widow, Okoye,
M'Baku,
that we know of. Now, they mention in the movie, but never really show them, because Ant-Man and Hawkeye apparently are in jail.
No, they decided... They're
on home arrest. Right.
They said it was too much for their families.
Because of Civil War. They're talking about Civil War. The whole reason Captain America and Iron Man weren't talking anymore is because of the Civil War movie.
Right.
And so people got arrested. And at the end of Civil War, they show people in jail.
Right.
And Ant-Man and Hawkeye were in jail. And they said all that stuff was too hard on their families. They cut a deal and they're on house arrest.
Gotcha.
From Civil War.
Okay.
So they don't show them.
Right.
But they mention them. So obviously I'm thinking that they're part of the solution for the second part.
Yeah.
I also want to bring up Dr. Jane, Thor's ex-girlfriend, because they mention her kind of as well.
I hope we don't have to. Cause, I mean, no shade to Natalie Portman, but I just feel like that was a wasted character.
Well, that's why I'm saying they got to do more with that character, because why would you cast Natalie Portman unless it was going to be awesome later? And they do. So after you sit through the credits of this movie, they show you finally Shield.
Oh, hey guys!
Just driving through, getting donuts, and like half the population is disappearing in New York too. And Nick Fury fades away, and so does the other woman from How I Met Your Mother. I can't remember her character's name. Pearson, I think maybe.
Sure.
In any event,
he was about to call somebody.
Captain Marvel. That was Captain Marvel's insignia.
Captain Marvel.
Oh, really? On that old school. First of all, old school pager from like the early '80s. So we're guessing like the last time Nick Fury
sold drugs.
The last time Nick Fury saw Captain Marvel, it must have been the '80s, and apparently pagers.
Captain Marvel's a woman, right?
Well, yeah. Apparently, pagers can send a message through space.
Sure.
That's not okay. So no, the original Captain Marvel
Because I thought in the Captain Marvel movie that's coming, it's played by
It is.
a woman.
Okay. But you asked,
Okay.
is Captain Marvel a woman? And I'm assuming in the new one that it will be, but I am trying to prepare you for the fact that Marvel was an alien. His name was Mar, first name, last name Vel, right? And it was a man. And in the upcoming Captain Marvel movie, expect to see Jude Law play that role.
Ooh.
And he mentors the next Captain Marvel, who is the woman
I do enjoy Jude Law.
that everybody's seen and heard and talked about. So Captain Marvel is kind of like a Captain America type thing where other people,
Yeah.
more than one person plays that role.
I don't know how I feel about those kind of characters.
Well, right, I hear you. But Captain Marvel is most likely to be set in a completely different timeline, probably back in the 80s. So that Captain Marvel movie, when it comes out, will probably be set in the time when pagers were still a thing.
Probably.
To give you kind of a backdrop or a backstory as to what her role is going to be in the Avengers 2. So
Gotcha.
expect to see a Captain Marvel movie before you expect to see the conclusion of Infinity War.
Right, which I do have the Marvel, they're calling it Marvel Phase 4. I do have the list of those movies that are coming out. I don't have a timeline for them. I'm sure it's out there somewhere. But I'd also would like to point out a thing that annoyed me in this film is Scarlett Johansson's hair acting.
Why was it blonde all of a sudden?
You know, I don't give a fuck about that.
I do. I'm like,
Right, it is a little bit weird because she looks much better with the darker hair. But the fact that every answer is
flipped.
is punctuated with a hair flip, like in a hard one.
Yeah.
And so that really does bug me.
Yeah,
And
it bugged me too.
Buffy, Sarah Michelle Gellar did a lot on Buffy.
Yeah.
And it's just annoying.
Yeah.
So if anybody knows Scarlett, just kind of tell her to tone that shit
It's
down.
not her fault. It's the director's fault.
Is it?
Yes.
Always?
Yes.
Okay, so
Everything you see that the actors do is the director's responsibility.
Not always. So Phase 4 of Marvel. So we left this theater. I guess the big question isn't exactly will these people come back? It's how are we getting them back? Because we all know that these other movies are coming out. So the next phase of movies are Spider-Man Academy, Black Widow is finally getting her movie.
Yay.
We've also got Wasp. There's Ant-Man and the Wasp. There's something called Nova. There's Warlock. Doctor Strange has another movie. Thor has another movie. Black Panther. We've got Captain Marvel and the Valkyries, which, okay, sure. Tessa Thompson, is she involved in this? Another Guardians movie. Another fucking Fantastic Four. I wish we just kind of let this die. Just let that shit go. And another Avengers movie.
Huh. Interesting. All right. So we got a ways to go before we resolve this one.
Long ways to go. But I guess the next Marvel film is coming out as Ant-Man and Wasp.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what's next, and maybe they'll touch on it. So some fun facts about this film is that this film takes place 4 years after Guardians 1 and 2, which takes place in the same year. So it's interesting. So that our cast, our ragtag group, they have now been traveling around together for about 4 years at this point. So it makes sense that they would have formed these stronger bonds.
Right.
Also, so when Thanos shows up to, is it Nowhere, where Benicio del Toro is, and he's asking him where's the stone, and I don't know if anybody else caught this, but he's asking Benicio's character where's the stone. Benicio plays a character in Snatch that says that several times.
Oh, yeah,
like,
right?
Yeah. He's like, where's the stone? And he says it like in different inflections and whatnot. But I just thought that was that was cute.
There's a lot of Easter eggs in this movie. The number 17 played a pretty prominent role.
Tell me more.
You know, Tony Stark, when Spider-Man was on the spaceship and leaving Earth's atmosphere, Tony Stark says, release Gate 17A, and then it shoots up the ultimate Spider-Man suit.
Which,
speaking of the ultimate
finally
universe, right? But that's also from another kind of universe of Marvel. And then the other thing too is when they were fighting in Wakanda, and they're like, these monsters are going to go around the perimeter, and they're going to end up where Vision is and get the Mind Stone. They're like, we're going to have to open up the barrier then. And T'Challa's like, open up Gate 17. And so I'm guessing that those are references to comic book numbers. I don't know. I didn't get that into comics, like I said, growing up, but
Okay.
I did remember kind of like seeing some article mention about comic book issues being given shout outs in this movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's interesting to know. All right. So, yeah. Again, a lot happened in this movie. We can't really get into everything. Star rating 1 to 5. I'm gonna give it a 4.
4. It was. I mean, there was as much as I didn't care about the main villain. There was also no main hero. And so it really was kind of about teamwork or lack thereof, which is ultimately always the demise of the Avengers, is when they fail to work together cohesively as a team with defined roles and responsibilities and that kind of stuff.
Character you cared the least about?
Thanos.
Really? Wow. I'm gonna have to go.
Oh,
with...
I'm sorry. Potter. Always Potter.
Who's Potter? Exactly. No, who's
Miss
Potter?
Potts?
Oh, fucking Pepper. Yes.
Pepper. Sorry.
There it is.
I was mixing the two names together. Potter.
That
just
changed
Potter.
my answer altogether. Yes. If we could stop putting Gwyneth Paltrow in these fucking
Please.
movies.
I know she's gonna play a big role in the next one or two too.
I know. But seriously,
It's such a painful casting choice.
it's just ugh. Anyway,
one thing doesn't belong here.
fucking Gwyneth Paltrow. Yeah, so I mean, I was gonna say Scarlet Witch,
But she was so powerful.
But yeah,
She was almost on my list as far as whose fault
Vision,
this is.
actually, because she couldn't kill Vision.
Because she wouldn't destroy the Mind Stone sooner. It doesn't, in my opinion, Vision's a machine. You destroy the Mind Stone, doesn't kill him. It just takes away like all that mindfulness, if you will.
I got questions about his existence and what their relationship actually was. I mean, I'm assuming it was some sort of romantic relationship.
Sex bot.
Sure. Okay. So Vision, his original form is, this weird, like, metallic looking, which shout out to the makeup. Awesome. Like, I love, like, his makeup and Nebula's.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, so believable. But, like, if I'm remembering this correctly, was Vision like a hologram and he's some sort of way materialized himself?
Okay, so what happened was Age of Ultron.
Right.
Artificial intelligence robot.
Right.
And James Spader's voice.
Right.
What Tony Stark had done was make Jarvis the operating system as opposed to Ultron.
So did they actually make like a machine, like a body for him?
No, when he was Ultron, he was a body.
Okay.
So when they infused Jarvis in there, they also put the Mind Stone in there at the same time. And that's when he got the body.
Okay.
So, and Bruce Banner had made the point, he's like, it's not just all machine. I'm in there a little bit, Tony's in there a little bit, Ultron and Jarvis are in there. So if you take away the Mind Stone, you'll still have...
something.
Yeah.
But my question is, what does that feel like when he changes over into, like, Paul Bettany skin? Like, does that actually feel like skin? Or
Scarlet Witch.
So are you down to watch again?
No.
Really?
I watched it now. Twice.
Seriously?
I don't need to see it
there
again.
Are good moments. I absolutely plan to watch this again and purchase it.
Oh, yeah?
Because,
Well, then yes.
No, I'm not saying in the theater again.
Right. By default. I mean, yeah, but this isn't going to be one of those ones where I seek out to see again, like Deadpool, for example, or even Thanos or Thor Ragnarok. Like,
it's not as fun as Thor Ragnarok, no. But it does really have it has a lot of good moments. And you're right, it's not like a regular viewing kind of thing. Like, oh, it's just Sunday afternoon, let me just throw in.
I got 2.5 hours to kill, or I need background for 2.5 hours.
Right.
That's where this movie fits for me.
Okay.
And in the spectrum of Marvel movies.
The Bechdel test is a type of litmus test to assess the presence of women in movies. It originates from Alison Bechdel's comic Dykes to Watch Out For in 1985. The rules of the test are as follows. It has to have at least two named women in it. Yep. They talk to each other. About something besides a man. I have a moment in my mind where Okoye and Black Widow are fighting, and then Scarlet Witch comes out, and she kicks some ass, and then they're like, "Where's she been all this time?"
Yeah, there you go.
So,
all right, 2.5 hours, and that's a one.
And that's all we get.
That's it.
Because I really, because Scarlet or Black Widow was the only woman for a while. Like, she's the only woman in most of her scenes, and then Scarlet Witch is the only woman in most of her scenes, aside from the
Right.
alien woman, and then Okoye along with the Dora Milaje, but still. Well,
Yeah.
and then we got Shuri also, but I don't think Shuri shares any scenes with another woman.
Mm-mm.
So yeah, so we got that. Those 30 seconds. Awesome. So
But it's there.
barely. All right. So you got anything other thoughts? Anybody else you want to blame before we shut this down?
Thanos. Definitely his fault.
So please subscribe, follow, like us on all of the things. DTW Podcast on Twitter, Down to Watch Podcast on Facebook. We're on iTunes, Libsyn, and Player FM, listed under Rugged Angel Productions. Rugged Angel is one word. And if you have a movie or a TV show or an album that you want us to review, talk about, just sit down and chit chat about, you can send us an email. Or you can also send us an email just to say hello to downtowatchpodcast@gmail.com. All right. I think that's it.
That's it.
We're going to shut it down.
It's a wrap.
Let's go away.